Well, everyone, hello, good morning, good evening, welcome to tea. I hope you all have your tea or your latte or whatever it is you like to drink in the afternoon or the morning. And it's been a few weeks since I've done a satsang between classes and a bout with a bit of illness. Um, yeah, been not as much activity here on the live stream, so it's really good to be back with you all. As uh, as I was putting this together, and putting even after I'd actually scheduled the broadcast and everything, it occurred to me to speak about loving awareness and how essential it is. You know, in this world of non-dual inquiry and the pointers and the like, it can actually become almost kind of clinical when we talk about pure consciousness and pure awareness and that sort of thing. But you know, the Sanskrit term for what we would call pure awareness or the like, pure being, the actual nature of being itself, is Sat Chit Ananda. And Sat and Chit, Sat being, existence, truth, reality, Chit being consciousness, awareness of being, right? So you can't separate the two. The last is Ananda, and it's usually translated as bliss, but I like to think of it differently than that, because it kind of, it's like ecstasy, right? It tends to be this ecstatic moment that you experience, and it seems disconnected, and especially in most non-dual conversations, including a lot of my own. There's an emphasis on the being and consciousness, that consciousness is being itself, and obviously existing without consciousness is indefinable, and consciousness without existing is impossible. So obviously those two go hand in hand. But what about Ananda? I like to think of it as feeling. The there's the knowingness, and then there's the feelingness. Chit being the knowingness of being. You exist and you know that you exist. Right? But we also feel that we exist. And so to me, it immediately points to the experience of love, of the visceral feeling of existence. Like if you do a meditation and just sit and feel your body for a while, or do a relaxation meditation where you just kind of consciously relax each part of the body and just feel that flow of energy. It's an aspect of knowingness that we don't often cognize. It's partially because we're very much in our heads, especially in the West. Partially is I don't think it's actually been presented well enough, including me. So I like this expression, loving awareness. You know, awareness can seem so, what's the word I'm looking for? Cold. I mean, it's just, yeah, it's there, it's presence and all of that. And it can seem like it's just almost clinical. But Nisargadatta put it as having an awareness and an intense affection. That this is actually the key to awakening, this intense affection. So I'm going to make a recommendation as we're going through and I'm answering questions today, to really pay attention to how the questions and the answers feel. You know, it's not, pure sensation feeling, and it's not just pure emotions. They're a part of it. Right? There's a feeling to the truth, isn't it? You'll say, "Oh, that really resonates with me," and sometimes we'll even say, "I really feel that's true." There's there's more to it than just a conscious recognition of something. It's quite visceral. And frankly, if the nature of reality was just this awareness that had no heart to it, if you kind of I don't know, something would be missing, wouldn't it? It's no accident that Ramana Maharshi always referred to it as the heart, not just the awakened mind, but the heart. That the truth of you was the heart of you. And it's no accident that probably the most significant, certainly the most poetic of all of the Buddhist sutras is called the Heart Sutra. The heart of Buddhism, the heart of Christianity, the heart of Christ, right? So can we regard, what does that mean then? On a practical level, what does that really mean? Well, a loving awareness is infinitely aware of everything, but embracing of everything. It's not a distant awareness, like, oh yeah, I'm aware of this, this thing I have here, this water bottle I have here. I'm aware of the plants behind me. I'm aware of the camera in front of me, right? But I'm also aware of the beauty of it, the wonder of being able to sit in my little apartment in Seattle, Washington, and talk to people all over the world. What does that feel like? It's like, wow. and we actually interact, and I can ask questions, and there's these incredibly beautiful flowers that were on sale, right? And the basil that I'm trying to grow some of my own spices, and the water bottle and everything that has in it. That's it's an embrace. And the real point of meditation, and this isn't a total non sequitur, the real point of meditation is to be in the space where you quite literally embrace every aspect of human existence. We tend to want to gravitate towards the things we like and away from the things we don't like. And somehow we think that meditation or self-help or any kind of process is going to give us more of the things we like and less of the things that we don't like. We never actually stop and examine those preferences and go, in non-dual teaching, you say, well, don't have any preferences. Well, that's easier, which is actually impossible. You're going to have preferences. They're going to come and go. They're going to be unstable. They're going to be changeful. Right? So if we can recognize that, we can see, yes, there's a preference here. I'm going to sit down now, and I'm actually, I had some tea earlier. Now I'm having a nutritional drink, right? Because that was my preference in this moment. And it's going to change. I mean, you're all used to seeing me with the mate cup in my hand. So can we embrace that moment? Can we embrace the changefulness of human life? Can we embrace the ups and downs? Can we embrace the fact that the human body gets sick? that we both have altruistic aspirations. We want to help save the world, and at the same time, I really want a new car. Can we? Right? Oh, I shouldn't have a gas car. I shouldn't have a car at all. We should be doing public transportation, but I want a car. We should we should be perfectly willing to embrace both sides of that. Excuse me. May be getting more of that today. I'll see if I can mute. Can we embrace all of it? This is what the symbol of Buddha sitting under the Bodhi tree means. The beautiful image of him sitting on the ground, one hand touching the earth, one hand pointed to the sky. This intersection between the divine, the absolute, the rarefied, the unknowable, and the everyday human life. That's also the actual meaning behind the symbol of the cross, which was around long before the crucifixion of Christ. If that even happened as an actual historical event, it may be completely mythological, because the cross is a mythological symbol. And what it symbolizes is the intersection between the heavens and the earth, and between the past and the future, in the dead center of the now. And it is in that place that the egoic mind, the small sense of self, is crucified, sacrificed to this intersection, to this unknowable middle way. So open your hearts. I mean, that's what it really comes down to. Let us experience an enlightenment of the heart, which is far more in need. We're far more in need of now than even non-dual recognition. They really come hand in hand. I found that every time there's a new opening, I see a new dimension that I hadn't seen before, that it's attended by something in my heart just kind of cracking. I don't know which comes first, if they come simultaneously, if they're mixed up, but sometimes there'll be tears that come. Sometimes there'll just be this incredible feeling of affection and love. And at the same time, just incredibly precise insights. We really can't separate the two, which is why the practice of mindfulness and compassion, the bodhisattva vow to save all beings from suffering, is so critical. Technology acting up a little bit, and every now and then it just kind of mutes my mic for absolutely no good reason. So the heart of Buddhism, for if you read the sutras, I mean, it's precision par excellence. But the whole practice of mindfulness, the bodhisattva vows, the vowing to save all beings from suffering, the Shanti Deva, which is what the Dalai Lama, it's his mantra he recites every day, about being a bridge to others, about alleviating suffering, about being a raft or a boat or a bridge for those to escape the flood. If we were to cultivate that, I think that the deep wisdom of non-dual understanding would be far more readily available, far easier to understand. It's kind of a Western phenomena that we see heart and mind as being these two separate things. They were really interchangeable in Buddhist language, and the Chinese symbol for heart and the Chinese symbol for mind are the same symbol. So it's really part of the kind of the intellectual heritage of the West that separates everything out, where the mind becomes this intensely intellectual thing, scientific and precise, and the mind and the heart gets reduced to sentimentality and God, I hope this doesn't continue. They really go hand in hand. Not that song, but it's muting my mic for some reason, and I have no idea why. I'll keep the thing on it because there's nothing wrong with the mic. It's not doing anything wrong. So anyway, on that note, my dear friends, start with just an intention. The mind will go, well, how do I do that? How do I do loving kindness? Well, whenever anything unpleasant comes up, especially in meditation is the practice, right? It's where we practice being in life. It's not an end in and of itself. We sit in meditation, or we walk in meditation, or however you approach it. When we sit in meditation, we are practicing being in life. So we're practicing whatever's coming up in you, whatever you're not liking about you. Can you be present with it in loving kindness? Even the most ugly thoughts, can you be present with them in loving kindness? Because this too is part of the human experience. Anybody here not have unloving, hateful, or angry thoughts towards themselves or others? If so, if you've never had one, we'll switch places. You can do this, and I'll be listening to you. If you can say yes to it, yes, this too. This is also part of human life. This is the inevitable result of this incredible mystery of being born a human. And so I totally accept it. I allow it to be there. In fact, I recognize that it even has a place. Yeah, I'll let it go with that. So once again, welcome everyone. It's good to be back with you. So let me go over and say hello to all my friends. Shirt is ruffling up there. I didn't have my makeup artist this morning to prepare me for the show. Hello, Rosario in Madrid, Robbie in Romania, Crispin in Springlike, Sweden. No, Switzerland. Oops, sorry about that. David and Elaine, good to see you guys. My dear friend Ava in Poland, Ursula Madeira Island, the name T4Talissa or something, T4Lissa. Hello, love these sessions. So glad you're here. John in Scotland, Andy in Texas, Awakening Soul in North Carolina. Wonderful, wonderful. Anna in Warsaw, have another Polish person with us. There's Carl in Ireland. David and Elaine. Gee, could you touch on the subtle forms of attachment and identification with the sense of separate self that may persist after an awakening? How this might manifest and how to recognize it. Let me check something here. The bottom, good morning, because somebody right after that asked if there's nothing showing on your end. That was 11:03. You know, there can sometimes, I was awakening soul. Hopefully you got me now. Sometimes there is a delay. It's gotten a whole lot better. When I first started doing live streams on YouTube, I mean, it could be like, I've had like a couple minutes behind. Somebody would ask me something, I'd answer, and it was like minutes, going back and forth. But it's gotten really much better. So you should probably be seeing me now. It's 11:03, so I think I started a couple minutes after the hour. So subtle forms of attachment and identification. Well, remember that identification and attachment are inherent in the human mind. And the reason it becomes sticky and subtle is because, like everything, identification and attachment has both a positive and a negative side to it. I mean, if you don't have attachment between a mother and a child, you have a really screwed up kid, right? That kind of bonding is absolutely necessary. If you don't have that kind of the light side of attachment in a romantic relationship where there's an interdependency and a bonding that takes place, you've got a fragile relationship, right? It can fall over onto the other side. The attachment can become jealousy. It can become neediness. It can become somebody trying to dominate or manipulate the other. So there's where the soul, you see, as you really trying to embrace and see clearly which is the egoic tendencies for grasping and clinging, and which are just the natural functioning of the human being. You can see they can get very, very. It can get very subtle between the two. So how you deal with that is through the practice of being with the subtleties. Because remember, no matter how subtle it is, you're more subtle than it. Right? And it's only because the vision hasn't expanded enough that we're mistaking an impulse for ourselves. Now, the positive side of identification is, the musician and their instrument, right? They become one, right? When you're driving your car, right? You become one with it. You don't even think about it anymore. It's just completely integrated into it. Right? Now, that's the positive side of it, whereas there's this kind of this intimate connection with all things. The negative side is when I think is the subtle thought, I am that. And it's an influence that is so subtle, it's often it's often not even in the shape of words, right? It's just, I got to keep my eye on this thing now because I don't know exactly when it went off. I check the comments. Well, this is frustrating. This just started happening. So I will keep my eyes down there as best I could. Did I miss talk about being present with ugly thoughts? Okay. So nobody's complained, so I guess it just happened. It makes enough of a notification that I know. But anyway, identification then, again, if you recognize that all of these things are happening on a level that is so subtle that you can't actually see it consciously as it's not, identification isn't a thought, it's a silent influence of thoughts, right? It's kind of like a black hole. The black holes in space, they showed it was theoretically possible, but the way they found black holes, you can't see them, right? You can't look at them because the gravity is so powerful, light can't get out, so they cannot be seen. They can't be detected by any instrument. So the way they were detected is by seeing the influence on things that we could see, right? So, something in an orbit should go in a particular pattern, and it was not going in that pattern. And how it was off in that pattern matched what they had mathematically worked out to be the potential of a black hole. So you can't actually see it. Our energetic assumptions, the deepest stuff we hold, the deepest beliefs we hold about ourselves, right? That are like vasanas, right? The repository consciousness, are not themselves thoughts and feelings. You go, oh, there it is. You see it by the influence on thoughts. Thoughts tend towards a kind of attachment. They tend towards an identification. Now, once again, even that influence, that being as subtle as it is and as silent as it is, you are more silent and you are more subtle. So how it's going to manifest is in any given moment, right? One or the other is going to be there, right? If neither's there, there is no moment. Nothing is happening at all. But in that moment, there is going to be this dance going on, right? And if we can, just to pick up my theme from earlier, if we can continue to take this in loving awareness, not as if this is a wrong way and I've got to get rid of it. This is the right way. I've got to enhance it. This is good. This is bad. I shouldn't be identified. I shouldn't be attached. But instead, sit in this middle place that recognizes the light and the dark of it all, embraces it all. And from there, everything can be seen clearly. If there's any kind of preference for one or the other, that's going to create the attachment and aversion, as well as identification. Because inherently, if I have a preference for one or the other, I've just taken a position, and that position is the essence of the false sense of identity. That is the false self, the taking a particular position. So noticing those things in ourselves ourselves. And again, like I said, we're all going to have preferences and the like, right? But if we recognize that there's a preference arising, in that moment, there's consciousness there. And I could say, yeah, this is what I want right now. It's fine, right? That preference can become a habit. Say, well, I should prefer that, right? So I'm trying to get it down to the most subtle essence of it, which is this conscious awareness that is able to lovingly assess, or as Nisargadatta put it, awareness that is intensely affectionate. Right? Because let's not forget, human life is an incredible mystery. It's miraculous. It's mysterious. When we look at how many things had to come together for us to be doing this right now. How many events had to come together for the two of you to meet, right? and then build a life together. How many things had to come together to make this bottle, right? Well, when you think of it, it gets more. When you think of it, I mean, just thousands of years of people doing stuff and learning how to dig stuff out of the earth and metallurgy and change things and other stuff and this and the food. I mean, if you ponder it for just a second, any little tiny experience you have is a universe in and of itself. If we can sit at that with that kind of awe in front of the most mundane stuff, you've hit the payload. Nothing is going to get by you. There won't be any preferences, because even the worst things are going well. It is the inevitable result of an avalanche of causes and conditions. That's what all of this is. Nothing exists as a thing. Everything is an appearance of causes and conditions. Form and function, you can't separate them. One doesn't follow the other. They are one and the same. The rain, you say, it rained. Well, the rain and the sky are one. It is just in a particular moment, the combination of moisture, altitude, temperature, winds all come together and you get rain. And then when those conditions change, it disappears. So it's always this forever fluctuating stream or flow of causes and conditions. And it's miraculous because look what it's doing. The universe, a sunset, a squirrel running across a telephone line, a big truck making a wide left turn. It's like, what? We should be on our knees all the time. Really. Now, you can't function like that. I get very mundane, but every now and then I just have to stop looking at anything, right? I'm going to take a sip of this, right? And in about 15 minutes, it's going to be a brain cell. What? I mean, it's going to become my pancreas. It's poetic, right? Let's embrace the poetry of life. I hope that answers it for you, guys. I'm kind of tending to wander around today. I don't know where my head is at. Maybe because I was ill for a while. Maybe I'm still kind of punchy. Let's see. For some, it hasn't begun yet. Oh, here we are. Good morning. Good morning. Oh, okay, for some, thanks for the great class yesterday, G. Awesome. Oh, thank you, Michael. Thank you. The replay is available. If anybody's interested, the replays are all available. There's a lot of stuff there. Awakening Soul, he is live. Try refreshing page. He is live. Try refreshing page. Sometimes things just get stuck. Technology fails us. Nobody knows that better than me. Oh God, if technology could be foolproof, wouldn't that be a godsend? Has not proven that way for me. And Lisa says it was a great class yesterday. It was. And Thank you, Lisa, for helping me manage that. Everything has gotten easier since Lisa stepped in to kind of bring some order to the G chaos. Okay, the name I can't pronounce. Hey, G, can you elaborate on the process of moving country and how that affects the identity self? The lack of familiarity, missing old comforts, and how that process also serves serves us. Oh, well, having done it myself, well, it anytime we allow ourselves to be put in the position of experiencing things new, it has a tendency to open our minds, right? I so wish um, Americans, which tend to get very myopic, would travel around and see other countries, because they just say, "Oh, we're the greatest country in the world," but they've never been anywhere else. My own brother, I don't think he's traveled other than, going on I think he went on a mission or two for his church, and like a cruise on a like Disney cruise line. Other than that, he's never lived further than like 50 miles from where he was born. And it's very common with people in the Midwest and various parts of the United States. They're very cut off, very myopic. And so the advantage would be go out and see it, talk to other people, find out what's going on. Somehow Siri thought I was talking. Still thought I was talking to her. I thought I turned her off on the phone. Please try again. It surely did. See, technology, isn't it wonderful? So the advantages of them are just innumerable, right? I lived in Queens, New York, which is the most culturally and racially diverse city in the world. Just I'd walk 10, 15 blocks to my gym and I'd hear 5 different languages being spoken. I'd see all different garbs. I'd see habibs. I'd see full veils. I'd see wigs, and everything you could possibly imagine. And then, models. Well, it was extraordinary, and it has a deeply profound effect on us. Now, that said, the human body, the human mechanism is a stability seeking mechanism. It wants things to stay the same, right? It likes familiarity, and we all do. None of us could handle a constant flux, a constant change. It would be just completely unnerving. And at the same time, we don't want to get stuck somewhere, like like people that don't travel very much, right? You get stuck in opinions, you get stuck in ideas. You're not exposed to enough to challenge the assumptions that you have. And at the same time, we don't want to be challenged. We don't want to. We like everything the same. Who moved my cheese, right? Wait, this isn't supposed to be here, right? It's like you go into the grocery store and I don't know, they do it regularly. They move things around, right? And it is purposely to break people's habits so they don't know where to go, right? Because if I know where the breakfast cereal is and I want breakfast cereal, I go right there and I get it and I'm done, right? So they move it. So you go there and it's not there, but something else is that you see, right? So it's interesting. We long for familiarity. We long for things to be the same, and we long for things to be different. I mean, if this doesn't sum up that inner flow of every human being, I don't know what does. And if we can embrace that, right? Oh yeah, this is what it means to be a human. I'm going to want to go do something new, and I'm going to be uncomfortable about it, and I may not like it at all. And there'll be an impulse to want to go back to what I knew before. And then I have to decide, well, do I really want to go back to what I knew before? Or is it just this didn't work and I have to try something else? We have to be willing to engage with life on that level. And when you change a country, everything's different, especially if you don't speak the language. And you find ways to get by. You find ways to communicate. You go all the way back to caveman days. You grunt and point. It works. So you can see that what serves us most is the total embrace of this incredible dichotomy, this incredible self-contradictory thing that is human life. We have to embrace it. I don't want to be doing the same thing over and over again. I want variety, but I don't want variety all the time. I need to have some stability, right? This is the dance we all have to dance, right? And a lot of people, and that in those moments, it's not always easy because there's a resistance to doing something new. And then oftentimes say, okay, how can I do something new without changing anything? If you look at it, that's kind of the philosophy behind the law of attraction. I don't have to change anything about my life. I just have to change my thing. I have to focus here instead of there, and then I'm going to get what I want, which isn't really change at all. If it doesn't introduce a shift, some kind of change to our nervous system, being in a completely different environment, it's not really a change. It's a line extension, right? It's not a different drink. It's just, it's lime vodka instead of just plain vodka, right? Or, black currant or something. It's not really a change. They're just, it's basically lipstick on the pig. So is that answered for you? I hope the answers are good. I'm feeling kind of spacey. So hopefully my answers are cogent. Brent, love you, G. Love you too, Brent. Oh, Lisa, I could teach you how to trim the basil plants so it'll grow forever if you like. Yes. And I even have a couple of grow lights that I bought because my place is kind of dark. So I've got 2 on my plants, and I got 2 more that I'm going to mount a little area where I'm trying to learn how to actually be a little bit more domestic and grow my own stuff. I've just successfully, for the first time ever, sprouted mung beans, again under Lisa's tutelage, and it worked. I've had mung beans in my soup. I had it in oatmeal this morning. I just had big handfuls of my sprouts. You can all be very proud of me. I was never really a very domestic fellow. So I even said, okay, it was like on sale. It was really big and on sale for like $3. And I said, okay, I'm going to try it. Got the grow lights. I've got a space for it. I'm going to try it. And I'm going to pick up buckwheat today. I'm off to find some place to get some buckwheat. I'm going to sprout that too. I'm just going to be Mr. Green Jeans here. Not too long. Some of you may be old enough to remember who Mr. Green Jeans was. Anyway, let's see. Carl. Hi, Jeep. Me. Sorry, guys. Yeah, sorry. All right. Carl. Hi, GP. In an attempt to bring loving kindness to my conditioned selves, I've started to experience them also as the I am. They just weren't aware of it until now. Is this still making them separate? Well, I can sense, a sense of separateness about them, but that's okay. You're beginning to see them as they are. Because we only call things separate, right? The conditioned self is just a concept. It's an idea we have, right? Or to your conditioned selves. The sense of self is just something that's been projected on to what is nothing but the functioning of causes and conditions. Right? We could, if we wanted to, name rainstorms. We name hurricanes, right? And what is a hurricane except a bunch of causes and conditions? Right? When those causes and conditions come together in a form that expresses sentience, we now imagine a self there. Right? There is no self there. Right? It is not a self. It is just causes and conditions that are manifesting the essential sentience that is the nature of existence itself. Self-conscious, self-loving awareness. And so, yes, it is all the I am. But we just project our I amness onto what in fact is just a functioning. Right? And that's what creates the sense of there being a separate self when there isn't one. Is that clear? Make sure I understand your question. I've started to experience them also as the I am. Yes, because anything that exists expresses existence, doesn't it? So anything that exists is the I am. The thing doesn't have an existence separate from it. It is the I am, because that's the only self that there is. And so the selfness that that particular form, which is nothing but causes and conditions, is expressing, is the I am. The I amness is not in the form, nor is the form itself I am. That is an independently functioning I am. It is the I am made manifest. It is the I am knowing itself. And therefore, you can see that what we would call that duality is just a concept projected upon that which is essentially non-dual. It's all the I am. But that doesn't reject the dual. It's kind of like even dual and non-dual, right? Disappear. I mean, they're just labels. They're just concepts. It's neither. It's not this or that. It's not dual. It's not non-dual. It's transcendent of even those opposites. It's both absolute and relative, and it's also neither absolute nor relative, nor is it both. Right? It is beyond all the possibilities. Yeah. Oh, it's fun. I can get lost in this because it's just one. It's just one. So when you ask what is the I am, well, this guy's behind me right here. I mean, that's the I am. How else can you say it? What's music? Hum me a tune. Right? That's all you can do. That's kind of the key to unlocking Zen koans. You know, it's not an intellectual answer. It's just, it's you. You're the answer. Right? What's the deepest? The young monk asked after a big enlightenment breakthrough, asked the old Zen master, what is the deepest, most esoteric teachings of Zen? To which he responded, the jelly donut. Just the jelly donut, your shoe, the strange logic that has garbage men making the loudest noise in the world at 4 a.m. Where does that come from? I am wandering around here today, so hopefully, Carl, that's something that makes sense to you. I do hope I'm shedding light as I'm sitting here. Jennifer, hello, beautiful beings, and Babaji. Hello, Jennifer. Lindsay, what a joy to find this live stream. Infinite love and gratitude to you, GP. Oh, thank you, Lindsay. Hariom, Jay. Jay and I are old buddies. Oh boy. Hello from Belgium. Hello. I have no idea how to pronounce that. Nerby? Wow. There's me 23 in Waterville, Maine. Oh, wow. I have never been to Maine. I've been to most of the states. I think there's a couple I haven't been to. There's Barbara in Sweden. Hello, Facebook user. I'm not quite sure who that is, but hello to you. Maybe it's Amy. Waking soul. Oh, good now. Thank you so much. Good, good. Roseanne, if we are all one consciousness experiencing itself subjectively, what is the reincarnation? What is that reincarnates? For example, I remember you said that you met a little girl you believed to be your mom reincarnated. Yes. Well, who or what reincarnates? It can get kind of confusing, right? Because you step around, right? I have to speak in different levels. So when I'm speaking on that level, it's the level of experiential, and on the level of the experiential, there are numerous lifetimes, right? We all have numerous lifetimes. This is not the end. What appears as your life is, remember, it's all causes and conditions, right? The causes and conditions, the lust your parents had, right? Which started this process going, right? In a form in which sentience could be made manifest, that is, consciousness could be made manifest, and so it is, right? In this particular form, which is a human form, right? It can also be made manifest as a dog or as a squirrel or as a hummingbird. And those are all sentient forms, right? The key to understanding that is that the sentience is not a product of the form, nor is it in the form, localized in the form. That the consciousness that is manifested in all form is the one consciousness, but the forms go on and on and on and on. And so we can speak of it in terms of incarnation and reincarnation. But the truth is, from looking at the way I use those words, incarnation is actually manifestation. It is consciousness manifesting itself. It doesn't get inside of what it has manifested, right? So it never really incarnates, right? Forms appear out of it due to its nature. And those forms they go on and on and on and on. There's no limit to them. They are inexhaustible. From our perspective, if looking at it from the point of view of time, I would see it as me having multiple lifetimes, right? But I can also take a bigger step back and see that multiple lifetimes have appeared, multiple universes have appeared and disappeared in front of me. Okay? So what's really happening in reincarnation is that we have this idea that the earth is fixed, right? There's this universe and it's fixed, and here's the universe, and I'm like, or here's the earth, and I'm like, I'm born into the earth, I die out of the earth, and it's still here. Then I go back to the earth, and I go in and out of the earth. The constant, the fixed item is the earth, is this world, right? And that I'm going in and out of it. But that's a misperception. Just like I look in the sky and it looks like the sun is moving, but it's not. I'm not going in and out of it. It's coming in and out of me. My sense, what I experience, what everyone experiences, what we call birth or conception, is the appearance to this consciousness that is otherwise empty now of a world. From your perspective, you were told, oh, the world was here, and you were born into it, and we were your parents, and we did, and we had a little fun, hopefully, and you were the result of that, and you were born at this time, and had this experience, and etc. But that's not what you experienced. That's secondary. That's what people told you happened. What you experienced was total emptiness. Then suddenly there's sensations, stuff appears, right? And there's muffled sounds and all this kind of stuff, and then all of a sudden it gets really bright and it's much louder, and all this stuff starts changing, and there's this constant flux happening. From your perspective, you were there first. The world appeared to you. And that's actually what happens. It is growing out of this, out of your, out of you. Now, who are you? You are that one consciousness experiencing itself from a particular point of view, a particular perception. So it's not that you're a consciousness and your mom and dad are consciousnesses and I'm another consciousness. Consciousness is not, there's no plural form for it. It is just what is arising to you. This is really hard to grasp for the mind, because when I start going here, the mind is starts, well, then I'm the only thing that exists. And the answer is yes and no. If you see yourself as a separate self, to say I'm the only thing that exists, you step into solipsism, which is madness, right? But if you see it from the point of view of undifferentiated consciousness, then yes, I am the only thing that exists. In fact, the very first thing that Nisargadatta's guru said to him was, only you are. Give no reality or existence to anything other than yourself. His response was, I didn't understand it, but I trusted him. And so I puzzled over it. And I eventually saw it was true. But in order to get to that truth, you have to kind of jettison the whole idea of a personal consciousness or a personal sense of self. Now, within this larger consciousness, the entire range of experience, incarnations, my mother reincarnated as a little girl who didn't speak English with loving parents, right? That was an experience I had. But now I could also step back and say, yes, it's just an experience that's being had by consciousness. And at that point, it gets into balance. It has interest and place and position, but it has no permanent authority. It has no. It's universally, it's not an absolute truth. It is just an experience. And that's the way I can give expression to it. I can also express it as part of a dream that I'm having. And every one of my lives is just a different phase of the dream. Like every night I go to sleep, have a whole bunch of dreams, right? And they're all different and they go one to the other. It's kind of a dream within a dream. Hopefully I haven't gone too far or gone right by you on that, because you can see there's different ways of looking at it, and they're all accurate. But the touchstone, the stake in the ground, is Satchidananda. I am, right? That I know. Experience is constantly changing, so I can't put a stick in the ground anywhere there. I can't say this is absolutely true. I can say it's experientially true. But what's absolutely true? I am. My existence is incontrovertible and undeniable. Your existence. And this is the place where we actually kind of take root. This is where you lay it. Everything else is relative to your existence. And the more you just ponder deeply your own sense of existence, the bigger that sense gets, until it becomes not my sense of existence, but the existence, the only existence there is. Did I nail it for you there, Roseanne? I hope so. Lydia, dear GP, thank you so much for your teachings. Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you. And you're welcome, Roseanne. David, Diego, you talked about being present with ugly thoughts. I'm dealing with the abuse I suffered as a child and the resulting rage and anger I feel as if that is what I am. All those ugly feelings. Yeah, that's what it's going to feel like when you're pushing them away. Okay? It is completely legitimate to feel those angry feelings. You should, right? I had to go through a period of really being really angry, even enraged. I mean, I had some pent-up rage there that used to come out every and now and then, and I would just explode. And it all came back from just incredible abuse and mistreatment. It all went back to that, which I then, continued to be involved in, even as a young adult. It took me a while to kind of sort all that out. And first I was being really spiritual about it, and I'm not going to have these, and I'm going to forgive and all of that. And eventually, God, what a crock of shit. I mean, I had to completely embrace all of humanity, not just a part of it, not just try to be the nice guy, right? I'm going to spiritualize it all away. That's nonsense. It's nonsense. It's really self-abusive. Right? So it can feel that that's all there is to you. It's just this anger, right? This hatred, this just absolute resentment, right? So say yes to it. When that's there and that's all that's there, say absolute yes to it. This too is part of being human. Of course I feel this way, right? I like to point out that Gandhi was angry, he was nonviolent, he was smart, he was really wise as to how to give expression to that anger. But he was angry. British, you have no business in our country. Get out of my country. Right? He was pissed. Right? But he was not, but he knew how to use that energy correctly. Right? But it didn't start that way. That wisdom gained over time. He had to come to terms with how he felt about that, and the abuse of it, and the injustice of it all. Right? That's a great example, because he's pictured this gentle guy and everything, which he was, but there was way more to it than that. He was just not trying to be gentle. This is the only way you can win. You can't win at their game. They do violence for a living and have been doing it for thousands of years. Don't bother playing that game. So embrace your anger. Yeah, I have every reason to be angry. Let it be there. Make no resistance to it whatsoever, even if it appears to be the only thing that's there. Take in that anger in loving awareness. How about that? To actually embrace your anger in loving awareness. Oh, this too. Yes, this too. And then it will have the opportunity then to find its equilibrium, right? Because remember, the anger and rage are anger is triggered out of a deep sense of vulnerability. Right? When we are threatened, how does the body react? Right? It's either going to prepare to run, which is what we experience as fear. I'm going to get out of here. Or the body preparing to fight, to protect itself through fighting. And that fighting, getting into the state of being ready to fight, is what we call anger. That's anger. That's physiologically what's happening. Did it again. I caught it. When we can't run and we can't fight, that anger just kind of festers, right? We can't even give any expression to it, because it's even more dangerous. If I express that towards my caregivers, my parents or something like that, it's even worse. So I can't do it. It just sits there. It just sits there. So now it's time to allow yourself to embrace it. So yeah, I had every right to be angry, and I wasn't allowed to do it, but I am allowed to do it now. God damn it, I give myself total permission to feel that and to vent it as much as I need to. Right? And that embrace of it as legitimate and honoring it is what you didn't get back then, because if it had been, it wouldn't be there now. It would have had the right kind of outlet to be able to discharge. And you'll find, as you go into that, you'll find a lot of pain, you'll find grief, you'll find hurt. There'll be a sense of lost opportunity. The things that you could have had in your life that you don't because of what happened to you. There's a period ahead to go through of just all of that. My God, how different it would have been. Just a little bit of loving kindness and honoring of who I actually was, rather than the constant, the constant oppression. I'd had a very different life. But it ends up I come to understand. I understand the human heart. I understand how this stuff works, and through the grace of God and the Dharma, I come to an understanding of embracing all of human life as it is, and this is what sets you free. It's the only thing that will set you free. So embrace it. And yes, it will feel as if there's nothing there but these ugly feelings. But of course, there is more there, right? But if that's all that's there in this moment, well, then that's all there is in this moment. Right now, I am nothing but a bundle of ugly feelings. You better steer clear of me. Then so be it. As you well know, nothing stays the same. Okay? Those feelings will change for two reasons. Number one, everything changes. If you hadn't noticed, nothing stays the same. And number two, permission for them to be what they are allows them to transform into what they really want to be, which is the power of self-expression. Because that was what was limited. The abused child can't express themselves. It's dangerous to be you. And that's what the anger is. The real energy behind that anger is the capacity for enormous creative self-expression, because that's what we really got cheated out of. Does that help, David? Great question. Wow, great question. Very potent for everybody. Facebook user, I can relate to what you're saying. I need to move my place of living. I've been here for 40 years. I don't know why I can't get excited about starting something new. I realize my eye is connected so deeply to this place that I live that I can't see myself anywhere else. Yes. So practice seeing yourself somewhere else. Right? Just imagine, right? Just give yourself permission to feed some of those images to your nervous system. And really be present with it in the sense that, okay, if I live there, boy, there'd be all this great stuff. Oh, I'd also not have this, and this. Yeah, it would be uncomfortable. So acknowledge both sides. If you acknowledge both sides, you don't create conflict. I got to get out of here. I can't leave. I got to get out of here. I can't leave. That's just this. But if I really want to get out of here, and I don't want to leave. It's very comfortable. There's new things that I want. If you acknowledge both of those as having equal authority, that is both sides of human nature, they're not going to do this. They're going to do this. Eventually, an equilibrium will get established. And you can even take little forays, go someplace, get yourself an Airbnb somewhere, right? And just hang out for a bit, or, if you normally sit and read or meditate, in one place in your house, do it in another place in your house, or go out to a park and sit and meditate, or sit in a coffee shop and watch satsang, right? Just kind of begin to mix it up a little bit, which will help. Remember, we can't force if you try to force the nervous system into something, it's going to rebound. It's going to want to immediately go back. So but it's a gentle retraining, right? Where you go, oh, but of course the key is own both sides of the story. Right? I want to go, I don't want to go. Yeah, it's true. That's the embrace of the fullness of human life. And if you do that, you're the peacemaker. You're the one in the middle. And eventually the flow will happen. Because there's nothing there making a conflict anymore. Thank you, Facebook user. GP, how's the best way to deal with primal fear, helplessness, loneliness, life, death, dangerous sensation in the body? Whoa, fantastic question. Practice of meditation, being present with whatever happens to be there in the moment. Yes, there's, the primal fear we have is the existential fear. The existential fear of the body, which is simply, the body's desire to live, right? The body's desire to hang out. I want to stay here. I want to continue Because I want to keep this form together. That's the nature of life itself, right? And so it's going to be doing things to try to protect it, rightly so. And that kind of fear that arises when the body senses that its threat is completely natural, can't do anything about it, and you don't want to, right? The other fear is when it becomes a little bit more abstract. It becomes a little bit more about the sense of identity fear. Right? Now, when you're talking about helplessness, life and death danger, that's both, right? But if you really look at your life, you find the life and death danger we experience is not very often, if at all, right? I can't remember the last time I actually experienced something that was like life and death, right? Where it really was a life and death situation. Yeah, I think maybe it's time about 15 years ago when I almost walked in front of a bus. My nervous system took over, threw me onto the sidewalk. I was just stepping inside, and then when my memory was, I got brought into the conversation, and I was already falling backwards onto the sidewalk. If I'd continued to walk, I was just completely lost in thought. I was just, pondering some deep idea, undoubtedly, and I was just about to step in front of a bus. And if I had continued, I would have been mush. I would not be sitting here right now. I mean, it was that close. My body saw it and reacted before I did. I got told about it later. Literally, I suddenly realized I'm falling back onto the sidewalk, and this bus goes by. I went, thank you. Thank you. I'm not done with you yet. Thank you very much. So that was the last time I can remember where I was actually in a body-threatening situation. Right? We don't get chased by wild animals anymore, right? There's no anacondas or anything hang around this place. Some poisonous spiders, but it'll just hurt a bit, right? Nothing really life-threatening in the body's terms, right? So when you're talking about the feeling of helplessness, it's more in the realm of our memories and concepts and ideas in the sense of identity, because the ego, the false sense of identity, or the ego, carries such authority because it connects up to the sense of a genuine life and death threat. So a threat to our ego feels that it's actually a life and death threat. And it's not. Obviously, it's not, right? Yeah, it stings, it hurts, we can be embarrassed, even humiliated, but we're not dead, right? And this is such a powerful insight to realize, it doesn't carry that much authority. It's not going to kill me. Right? So when you start looking at things like the feeling of helplessness, right? Am I actually helpless? From the body's point of view, answer's no. I'm not helpless at all. Right? Now, from the mind's point of view, or the ego's point of view, am I able to get all the things that I want? Now, it can say, I'm helpless. I can't get what I want. Right? But you can bring intelligent consciousness to that. Say, well, first off, is this really important that I have it? And is there really anything life-threatening if I don't? Right? Yeah, it might be a little more boring. I can be disappointed, right? But is that really primal fear? Right? But now that false sense of self and the life force of wanting to live can get so intertwined that it can feel like a real primal fear when the person of me is being threatened. So this is how you begin to deal with. You begin to discern what is really there, what's the false self and the ego, and what is actually real. Right? What's going to kill me, and what's just going to be inconvenient or uncomfortable, or just a little drab, like loneliness, right? Loneliness, we all experience it, right? There's a sense. I've experienced some feelings of a profound aloneness, just a realization of aloneness, right? And sometimes it's just a feeling of lonely. I mean, that's human, right? I live alone. I have for a long time, right? I'm a rather solitary character. When you're a spiritual teacher, you don't have a lot of contact with peers or friends, for that matter. I'm not all that social. So there are times I feel lonely, right? Which is perfectly natural. There's a human desire. We need companionship. Right? It's part of the human thing. Now, not getting companionship in our world doesn't mean you're going to die. Now, it connects up, though, to a very primal feeling within us that if to be alone is to die, right? Now, the pack animal that lives in this body, right? The pack of wolves or the flock of geese, which are very reliant on one another. To not have that connection is life-threatening. So that feeling of loneliness can hook up into that and become very, very intense. It can seem like a primal fear. What we have to do is be willing to go into those fears, right? And sort them all out. If we go trying to, how do I get rid of them? You're just going to be fighting with them. They're going to detect you as a threat, and they're just going to be triggering every fear you got, right? So instead, you go, okay, what's actually here? What's real? What's real fear? What's the real thing? What is a real desire? And what I'd much prefer to have companionship, maybe an intimate partner than not. But if I don't, it's not going to kill me. It's just going to be uncomfortable. Right? Okay, so you can begin to sort it all out, and you end up finding that the real things that are really that kind of life-threatening, all or nothing kind of feeling are very few and far between. In our modern world, almost non-existent. Right? You're not walking around the jungle anymore, right? Where there are all sorts of things that can get you, and you're not top of the food chain there. Right? We've created a society in which it's almost non-existent. So is this answering your question? I know I put a lot there into that because it's subtle. Again, you can see I always come back to the same thing. We need to get to know our feelings so well that we can clearly identify them. I can't give anybody a checklist. This means this, and that means that. And if you feel this, then you need to do this. Because it's so subtle and nuanced, and it's so different for everybody. The way the mix is, the things that have gotten all mixed together. Non-dual self-inquiry is the means by which we begin to sort all this out. We begin to zoom in and see the distance between the various components and begin to see where they actually fit. And as a result, there's just an enormous embrace of human nature with all of its diversity. And, loneliness and contentment are both aspects of the human being. So enjoy them both. We want to get rid of all the so-called negative feelings, but if we didn't have intense desire, there'd be no intense fulfillment. Everything would be flatlined. So let's see. Thank you, Divine 5353. It's a nice bottle. Thank you. Thank you, Quack. Thank you, says David Elaine. You're welcome. Yes, that was great. Thank you. Eloquently put as always. Thank you. Oh, thank you. Eloquence. Funny, I never thought of myself like that. Dear G, could you please elaborate on how to stay calm in the middle of an emotional turmoil? It's easy when I meditate, but not when something unexpected hits me. Says Awakening Soul. Oh, yeah. Practice. I can say this is how you do it, right? Because when you're in the middle of an emotional turmoil, it's only an emotional turmoil because we're not prepared to deal with it, right? Because if you are, it's not a turmoil anymore. It's just an emotion arising. So I have to emphasize how, there's a lot of non-dual teaching out there, that kind of presents it as if it's one and done, right? I'm going to have the great revelation. I know who I am now. Everything's fine. Thank you very much. Right? I used to think that in the very beginning. I thought, well, this is it. I've made it, right? Da 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 da. Cue the violins. It was wonderful, and really, for a couple of years after that first experience, it was quite blissful. Just enormous output of creativity and all of this stuff, and it's just great. And then crash, boom, down, just hit the wall, because that it isn't like that. And the emotional turmoil came, and stuff that had been under the surface that I was just that I'd kind of spiritualized away, just exploded. And I didn't know how to deal with it. I had no criteria for knowing how to deal with it. It's kind of just being torn open and not knowing what to do with it. It's a practice. Okay? If you can sit with any emotion that you're feeling in the moment, like right now, is there some kind of a tension? Is there a yearning? It feels like something's missing? Even if it's subtle, say, okay, this is part of human nature. Yes, this too. This can be here too. And really open your heart to it. This is what loving awareness is. Open your heart to it, right? Even if it's emotionally unpleasant. The more you do that, well, the more stuff is going to come up, right? This whole process is very gentle and very polite. It's not going to dump on you, right? The stuff comes up when it's able to come up. When you that which can fill that space will come up, right, on its way out. But as that space gets bigger, more and more stuff comes up until the most fundamental, the mother of all traumas, begins to emerge, and it will eventually. And you practice on the cushion, right? But sitting on your meditation cushion is a practice. It's a practice. So when you go out into real life and something happens, that practice kicks in, right? It's just like practicing, an instrument or martial arts. You just do the repetition over and over again, and then something happens in real life. It's there. It rises up to meet it because you've trained yourself to do that. And it's perfectly natural that you're going to run into something in life, and it's going to trigger the emotional turmoil. And you're going to either recognize it as such and be present even in that moment, in the midst of it, or it's going to get you and you're going to fall into the old patterns. And then later on, you're going to go, what happened? And you can either now fall into a new pattern of beating yourself up. I should have been able to handle that, and saying, oh, okay, it got me again. You got me. Well played. Well played. Not next time. And now it becomes, forensic. You just, okay, well, exactly what happened. And then you sit with that. You can even play it in your mind and feel the reactions and the like, and be with it. And say, okay, you too. You can be here too. This is what it's all about. In a retreat, and I'm hoping to start doing. I'm going to be speaking at a Unity church near here on the 26th. It's going to be a live cast as well on a Sunday. So I'm going to do a workshop as well. So if anybody wants to tune in, they'll be able to see it. I'll provide everybody the link. But in a retreat, you create the safe space with the group of people, right? I mean, it's really what we're doing here. We're creating a safe space for these questions to come up and the guidance to be brought in, because it's safe here. Everybody's here for exactly the same reason. Nobody's being critical. Nobody's judging anybody. Everybody's here for exactly the same reason. In a live setting or be on Zoom or something like that, it's fine. It is that you can create the same thing. Live is the best of all. It's a really safe place. And in the safe place, right, the stuff can come up because you're not getting bombarded with all the normal triggers. But if the retreat is done right, it prepares you to go, when you go back that Monday morning and you're back at work, you're expecting to be triggered because that safe place isn't there anymore. You are now back in the real world. But this is where the rubber meets the road, right? This is where the practice becomes real, because now, oh, okay, I've practiced being present, right, in this space. Okay, now the space is normal. All my triggers are still there because I'm, none of it's changed, but my awareness of it is there now. Now I can actually, even as it happens, the boss says yet another stupid thing at work, and the boss said another stupid thing at work. I'm feeling the reaction to that. Okay, now I'm going to be with that. And then that becomes the end of it. And it's not hard. It's not easy, right? Because the trigger will be there. And remember how triggers work, right? There's a pre-programmed response set up in the system. Something happens in an environment. It's set up to respond in a certain way. When you become conscious, the event in the environment happens. The feeling, the impulse for the trigger to fire is there. But instead of it firing, you just sit with it. You notice it wants to fire, but you don't let it fire. Right? I'm not going to be that anymore. I'm not going to react that way. It doesn't do any good. And it's a very uncomfortable feeling, right? Because everything in the nervous system wants to implement the program that button has just been pushed. This is supposed to happen. And the body's, what am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do? And you just got to sit right in the middle of all of that, going, it's okay. It's okay. No problem. We're making a different program here. We're not going to do that anymore. Right? And sometimes it's so reflexive, the event will happen and you're off to the races. And you're quite a bit down the line before you realize, oh my goodness, okay, stop, and then you come back. I have to say, it's a practice. There's no such thing as the great realization and it's all done. Anybody who tells you that is terribly naive. Right? Terribly naive. Right? The Buddhas of the world that hit that, but even Buddha got sick. He got irritated. He even referred to some people as annoying. It's part of human life. If we embrace human life, we embrace it all. You embrace you, and at that point, you realize, oh, if I'm just embracing human life, just like I am the Buddha, then. Oh, that's it. That's all there is to it. Yeah, that's all there is to it. And then it becomes, the process isn't so, I've got to overcome these emotional turmoils or these emotional reactions. It's like, oh yeah, this is part of life. These are happening, and this is happening, and I used to get caught by it. Now I'm not getting caught by it, but this one I still get caught by that one. And now what's the word? The seriousness of it gets taken off. Right? It's like, oh, this is just what I have to do now, right? And I won't have to do this forever. And the nervous, it's not like I'm going to make a perfect nervous system. It's just going to fall away. It's going to die, right? That's it, right? So while it's here, this is what I deal with. I don't have to perfect it. I don't have to do this perfectly. I'm already the Buddha. I don't need to be a perfect Buddha, whatever the hell that is. Is this helping you, awakening soul? I'm going to change your name to Awakened Soul. Jennifer says, growing your own food, connected to the earth a bit more. Fantastic. Yeah, I'm hoping to. My son has a nice big yard, and last Sunday, I wasn't feeling good, but I had to do it anyway because I had promised to do it when I helped them, my sister and her partner, move a bunch of planters that they had in this place in their apartment building, and very heavy. But at any rate, I was like, oh, I have a whole garden available to me. I'm going to have to grow some things. I have to do it. Finally, 70 years old, he's finally getting around to doing it. Very funny. Well, I grew up, my mother thought if anything that was convenient was the best. She was the world's worst cook. And we literally used to eat TV dinners sitting at TV trays in front of the TV. That's all I knew. Everything came out of the can. And it was well into my 20s when I was like, oh my goodness, there's this my God, there are so many foods. And it's very funny. Anyway, I'm digressing. Hello, Peter in Italy. Good to see you. There's Lisa. Identification isn't a thought, it's a silent influence of thoughts. Wow. Yes. Yes, it's a black hole. Yeah, I got that totally, said Roseanne. Thank you. You're welcome. Dale Wiggins. Hello, sir. Let me get some tea. Good. 11:57. Oh, I'm not that far behind. Look at that. Nerp B. I'm not too much in the New Age stuff, but I keep seeing many mirror hours every day. For example, like 1616. What do you think about that? Can these be messages or reminders from the higher self? We have to be careful with those things because I don't dismiss anything, right? There's obviously our view of the universe and the world is rather limited, right? There can be other dimensions of beings. Why not? There could be complete other civilizations living here that we don't even see, that appear to be occupying the same space. I mean, right now, all of you are sitting, watching me via Wi-Fi, right? And you can't see it, right? And Wi-Fi goes through walls, right? The solid wall looks like a window to radio waves, right? We have no idea that it's there, except we have little receivers that pick it up. So there's all sorts of dimensions, all sorts of ways that grace or the self can communicate. See, what we have to be careful, though, is that once something gets planted into the mind, there are mechanisms in the mind that then immediately begin to tune into it. So, you see 1111 a couple of times, right? And you find out it has this meaning. All of a sudden, 1111 is important. Your nervous system gets the message, oh, this is important, and it'll start seeing it and bring it to your attention, whereas before you wouldn't have noticed it. So we have to be careful. It can be just the fact that I've just invited my nervous system to show me when 1111 happens. I mean, I saw it a couple of times and I heard that had some meaning. I thought, well, that's interesting. And then all of a sudden I started seeing it all the time, right? Before it was just another number, right? But now it's not another number. It's got meaning attached to it. That meaning shapes our belief, which shapes our perceptions, and literally sends a message to the nervous system. I want to see this more, right? So when that happens, it no longer has any meaning other than the fact that I've given it meaning now. So again, it's not that these things don't, but the moment you start thinking they're important, at that moment you are going to be seeing them more often. So they stop being a message at that point. In which case, say, okay, that's not important anymore. How else will my higher self communicate with me? I mean, it doesn't have any limits on how I can do it, right? You can come through absolutely anything. So hope that answers it for you, my friend. Hello, Patricia. City of Angels. Yeah, you're one of them. Angela, hello to you. There's an abusive bully male living next door. I'm often the target of his projection and hatred. I can protect myself, at times ignoring him, at other times pushing back. Please comment. Wow. In some instances, I'll even suggest, move, right? If if you can, just get away from it, right? You don't have to stay there. Right. So I always need to make that clear. There's nothing you have to, I'm going to have to be spiritual. I'm going to have to heal this, or I'm attracting this into my life, or any such things. It's not so. At other times, pushing back. At times, ignoring him. Yes, if you know, avoid him. Walk around him. Do anything you can physically, practically, to have no contact with him, um, and and give him as little feedback as possible, because I mean the bully has to have a reaction to feed on, and it could be pathological. There are some people who are pathologically that way, which means it's a sickness, right? They can't. There's almost nothing they can do about it. They take pleasure in other people's pain. Right? Now, all of that said, you can also take it into yourself, right? To find within yourself the loving awareness of him. Now, I have to put it like this because so, okay, I have to love him. I have to love him. It become like an obligation. It's not. I want you to discover your own capacity for loving awareness, right? Whatever that means, and under the circumstance, a loving awareness of yourself that this is very unpleasant. I don't like this. I don't want this in my life. Of course I don't. Who would? Right? Nobody would ask for this kind of thing. Right? And then see if you can turn that same loving awareness towards him. What is it that makes somebody like that? He's obviously miserable, right? You can't be happy and be like that. Can I find something that will allow me to have some compassion towards him, and to find within myself the capacity to love at a level that I've never loved before, which is not an acceptance of the aberrant behavior, right? It's very, they can get very, very confused. You mean I just got to accept him the way he is? No, you don't, right? We have to find a way to love him despite that. To how do I embrace this man who needs love desperately? How can I do that? How can I exchange the image I'm holding of him for something at least more compassionate towards him? Right? And it's not easy. I'm not saying, oh yeah, piece of cake, I'm going to just try to be, because it has to be real, right? You can't make it up. You can't pretend. You say, okay, I'm going to be more loving now, or I'm going to love him. God loves him. God, and not, that's all nonsense, right? It's a real desire to say, suffering beings are innumerable. I vow to save them all. It's a bodhisattva vow. How do the benefit of doing that is more about you than him? Right? How can I find a completely different level of my capacity for love and forgiveness and compassion than I've ever found before? In that sense, this guy is my Zen master. This is an obstacle on my path that actually isn't an obstacle. It's the path. It's like now it becomes a spiritual quest for you, right? Which is a completely different way to approach it, and say, okay, and what am I doing to contribute to that? Not his, but I'm talking about, what am I doing to create my own fear, my own resistance to life as it is, my own um, How much was muted? How much did I miss? I'll start the story again just to make sure you got it. This young mother and her father, they were on Christmas vacation, Christmas visiting relatives in Seattle. They had to drive back home, which I believe is like maybe San Francisco or something. Anyway, it was an 8-hour drive. The two young children, one about a year old. And so it was a very long drive, 14 hours. The 8 hours became 14 hours. And they had to stop on the way to get something to eat. So they stopped a diner, right? Because that's the only thing that's open. They were there. There was like them, some truckers were the only people in the place. They were certainly the only family. And on the other side of the diner was a homeless man. And he was quite disheveled, and but their little kid was in the high chair, and the little 1-year-old just was fascinated. And this homeless guy was saying, "Oh, hi baby," and he was playing with. Oh, he knows how to play peekaboo, and he's interacting with him. Well, the little kid's absolutely. He's loving absolutely every minute of it, right? And the guy, the homeless guy, is talking loudly. He's disturbing everybody, and the kids and the parents are just absolutely mortified, and they do everything they can to quiet. And they turn the kid around, and he keeps turning. There's nothing they could do about it. And so finally, they quickly finished their meal. They paid the check, and she picked the younger one up to take him out to the car. Unfortunately, she had to walk right by the guy to get to the door. And as she got near the guy, the little kid in her arms reached out. Kids do, right? They try to get out of the grass to reach out to him. And the man sat there, looked at her, and he said, "Could I hold him, please?" And she couldn't turn him down. The kid was already in his hands, and the kid just kind of fell on him, just his arms around his head, and he was just hugging him and hugging him. And she said the guy's eyes were closed, and she could just see the tears coming down. And finally, he handed her back. He handed the child back, and he says, "Thank you. That's the best Christmas gift I've ever gotten." And she just, as she walked out of the car, she just started crying. She got in the car. As they started to drive, her husband heard her saying to himself, she says, "Oh God, don't let me forget. Please don't let me forget." Now, somebody like that may be a little bit easier than a bully, right? But that bully was once a little kid being abused. So all I'm saying is just try to find compassion in your heart. Imagine what the world would be like if we could all find that kind of compassion and say, "Oh God, please don't let me forget." Does that help, Angela? Does that help everybody? David, GP, the what could have been if not for the abuse seems to be a sticking point for me. So be really with that. Yeah, because, it'd be nice for somebody to say, yeah, that's right. You want to just dismiss it, but it's real, right? There's real grief there. You're damn right. Yes. I mean, I know my life would have been completely different if it wasn't just a constant battle just to have a little space that was mine. If there was a moment without fear or intrusion, right, or being disturbed in some way, yeah, it would have been completely different. And I had to go through a period of grieving that. Yeah, it's true. Yeah. The loss you had was real. And that's what we have to come to terms with. Yeah, I did lose that. I did lose that. And I'm never getting it back. That's grief. Okay. And so really be with it. Honor that fully. Right? It's not enough to say, yeah, but now I'm doing this. Look, if I hadn't done that, I'd been, I wouldn't be this spiritual teacher. Oh, fuck that. Jeez. It's like, yeah, you're right. And I wouldn't have known it and I wouldn't have missed it. Maybe I'd been writing film scores or something, right? Which is, one of the ambitions that I had. Who knows? It doesn't matter, right? This is what I'm doing. And I'm delighted. I mean, I can't imagine myself doing anything else, but I had to come to this place of equanimity about it. And you can only do that by acknowledging, yes, it really did cost me. An abuse did cost me, right? It was not, I have to forgive them all that. No, you don't. None of that you have to do. It's real. Really embrace that. And all the pain and everything that goes with it. Say to it, yes, this too is part of being human. Irrecoverable loss, yes, this too is part of being human. And if you do that, it will eventually transform. It will find a way. It will eventually be able to resolve that. And you'll feel whole. Ah, lovely. Thanks, David. What I got here? I think I can get through them all. Fox, can you talk about dreaming? Not sleep dream, but like how to pour love into one's desires. Please and thank you. Like consciously, so one doesn't get back in the rat race. Well, how to pour love into one's desires. Well, love your desires. Desire in the spiritual world is really got quite a bad rap, right? We shouldn't have desires, have to transcend desires. Desires are suffering, which is not actually what the Buddha taught. Not at all. But make it really simple. Let's not try to, how do you do this to not get back in the rat race? You may end up in the rat race, right? We're all in the rat race to a certain degree, right? I'm kind of in the rat race. Right? When I do a class, you guys see it, you see my little blurbs come out in the email and things like that. But you have no idea all the things that I have to go through in order to get ready for it, and writing it and putting it together, and the technology, and not just me. I've got some people that are helping me. I've got Lisa, who is producing things. I mean, there's a lot of work to get, to just kind of sit in front here nonchalantly, answering with the flowers and things like that. Oh yeah, a piece of cake. You hit a couple of buttons. No, it's not like that. There's a rat race involved. There's a lot of things, and as you can see, the technology can go wrong and the like. So put that aside. Our desires and our loves and our passions, don't associate them with the rat race or just the perfunctory or the stuff that has to happen or the boring, mundane stuff of human life that we have to say yes to as well, right? And instead, take the desire and just give it space, right? If you're trying to pour desire or love into the desire to make it happen, then your desire and your love are becoming means to an end, which is neither desire nor love, right? We don't want it to do that. We want the desire to be loved because it's lovable. It fits what I call lovable. It'll be fun or interesting or pleasurable, or maybe it's important, right? Or significant or valuable. Maybe it's not, right? Depending, it's valuable to me because I want to do it, right? Maybe it's got universal value. Maybe it doesn't. Right? So you pour love into a relationship because you love it. Not because it's going to, free you from the rat race or anything like that, but because you love it. So spend time with your desires, right? Really be with them, give them space to grow, become purely what the desire is. So they don't have extra things added. So it becomes the the pure thing. Think of all your desires like seeds planted in the garden. And you're the garden and the gardener. And you don't even know what the seeds are. You don't even know what plant they are. They're just seeds, right? And you're nurturing them, and you're watering them, and you're taking care of them. You're making sure the weeds are clear. And little by little, the sprouts begin to appear. And after a while, oh wow, that's that. Oh, I didn't know it was that plant. And some will make it all the way, some won't. Some will be huge, some will be small, right? It's not up to you to determine the lifespan or the life purpose of any desire. You're there to just embrace it. You're the garden in which it grows. Right? So if you embrace it like that, right, you can see there's kind of a wonder in it. There's a deep appreciation. Your hands are off. You're not trying to control it. You're not trying to use it for anything other than what it is. And now you're holding the human desire in its purity, which is how you say, that's a loving awareness. Yes, this too. This is also part of the deal, right? I get all of the good, but I also have to take the bad. Right? So I think of them like the plants in the garden that their whole job isn't to come to fruition, but to just feed the earth. Their growing makes a chemical reaction within the soil itself that makes the other ones grow. Sometimes that's the whole purpose of it. So does that help? Let's see. Talibab 4, asking for my mother, asking for a friend, asking for my mother. What advice do you have to parents whose children have grown up and they so heavily took on that soul role that not having it, they don't know where to go forward in life? Yeah. Yes, indeed. Well, as hard as it is, after the children have left, I mean, younger parents. I have several students who are young parents. It's always, well, make sure you continue to feed yourself what you need. Continue to feed your relationship, right? The parents' relationship with one another, because that's something that can really suffer. Because it gets so absorbed in the kids that the parents don't have a relationship. All of a sudden the kids go, and there's two strangers living together, and they don't know each other. They don't even know if they like each other. So what I would say is, you've gotten to that point, is, all right, imagine you've just been reincarnated, right? It's a completely new life. There's some remnants of the past, the occasional phone calls from kids. If you've got daughters, you'll get phone calls much more often. I have two sons, so it's like, yo, Dad, what's up? Okay, cool. See you. I mean, that's about it, right? Holidays and the like. Every now and then, it's there's, but it's just different. It's not easy. I'll say that, like any major transition in life is, because the sense of identity is so wrapped up in it, it wants to hold on to it. And it's very difficult when it's gone. So grieve it is a big one. Let yourself grieve the loss. Oh my God, I am not that anymore. I completely defined myself. I lived that. I was mom. I was dad, right? It's usually worse on women than on men. Yeah, but Yeah, it starts with grief, and then it becomes an inquiry. Okay, what do I like because I like it? Now that's going to be difficult. I often tell the story about after being a father and getting divorced and actually losing weight, and you know, and and the kids were at first they were with their mother, but then they came and lived with me for the bulk of it. But even so, I they were older. I wasn't the father anymore, right? And I was beginning to feel it, and I was changing my life. And going shopping for clothes, I had no idea what I even liked. I mean, I'd walk a, do I like that? I didn't know, because I hadn't thought about any of it. I hadn't given my, it took me a while to say, okay, well, what do I like? I don't know. All right, well, let's try this. How's this look? Looks good on the mannequin. How do you think it'll look good on me? And little by little, it began to develop. Do I like tea? Do I like coffee? I like sitting in a coffee shop. Do I want to go to a bookstore when I don't have to get a book for my kid? Is there a book I want to read? I don't know. Well, let's find out. You have to engage on that level with it. You have to say, okay, I've got to rediscover me. Right? I have been doing all of my thinking, all of my decisions, everything has revolved around the kids and my role. I don't have that role. It's just me. What do I like? And you're not going to know. When you start, you're not going to know. So you're going to make mistakes. You're going to do so. Oh God, that sucks. I don't like that at all. Something is going to look like really cool, and then you're like, oh no, I'm not going to do that again. But that's how you do it. That's how kids do it, right? Yeah, love it, and they spit it out, or they I love it. Give me more, right? And it's not easy because at that stage of life we kind of like want to kind of settle in, but and don't really take it into your heart that whole phase of life is no more. Wow, it's not anymore. I've had to do that several times in my life. I think I told you all, having done much meditation and work on death and the like, it's like I'm not attached to this human life. I've done my job. I've raised 2 kids. They're fine. Everything. I was like, I'm ready. Right? If I was to cease, right, then I'd be ready to let this go. Come to terms with death, because it's inevitable. It's going to happen to everybody, and the earlier you get content about that, the better. And then when Thich Nhat Hanh died, I knew who he was. I was very familiar with him. He was a big part of my early life in the 60s as an anti-war protester and the like. And I'm still an anti-war protester. And then I realized that when he died, he was 95, and I was 69 at the time. I say, wait a minute. What if I live another 25 years? I hadn't thought about that. I'd only thought about, okay, when it's going to end. But what if it keeps going? Another 25, 30 years. Good God, I'm only 2/3 of the way through. Oh, what do I do? What am I going to do? And it really did put me into this whole new state of like, wow. It's a whole different life, right? When I turned 70, it was like, oh, it's a whole new life. My body functions different. Differently. I look differently. Relationships, everything's different, right? Okay, well, who am I going to be now, right? Well, so obviously, some things are continuing. This, because I love to do this, but I've been reading more books lately, right? Trying to learn how to grow basil, right? You just gotta, okay, what do I like, right? I get plants around here. I'm actually keeping them alive. I was never very good at that before. So it's kind of a crisis point when you have the empty nest syndrome, because just bam, it's right in your face. But guess what? We are all experiencing it at different times in our lives. We all do. And so the graceful way in which we make this never ending. There are just some times when it's just far more. It becomes almost like a crisis because it's just so blunt. Sometimes the transformations are nice and smooth and gradual. Sometimes they're just whack, cut off at the knees. Sometimes it's like a stick breaking and it's clean. Other times it's like pizza, right? The cheese just kind of, you just can't quite separate it. So my recommendation is, as hard as it is, start giving attention to ask yourself the question, what do I like? What do I care about? What gives me pleasure? What about this life do I find interesting and engaging? What am I curious about? What do I want to know? What things have I not studied that I'd really like to know? Metallurgy, I don't know, geology, astrology, anything. What do I know? Notice that it's part of the inquiry. Inquiring into our own humanness is as much a factor as inquiring into our divinity. Right? We're not discovering who we really are, breaking down our identification with the egoic mind so that we live in some kind of rarefied state. It's so that all of human life can be set free. So everything becomes divine. Does that help? Running out of time here. Oh, a lot of stuff done. Let me scroll through here. Let's see. Let's see here. Let's sleep dream. Got to that one. Got it. GP, are you having an event in February in Bellevue Church? Yes, I am. February 26th, I'm going to be sending out an email this week for everyone who lives in this area. It's obviously open because it's a unity church, right? Not an evangelical church. I don't think I'm going to be invited to speak there anytime soon. So yes, I'll be doing a talk. It's like a 25-minute talk, then like a 7-minute meditation for the service, which will be live streamed. And then after the service, there's a break of about a half an hour. And then I'll be doing a workshop. The talk is going to be about how to see others through the eyes of God. I can't remember what the actual title is now. And the other is about much what we were talking about today: contraction and expansion. How to flow peacefully on the river of change. And that'll be a workshop that'll be about 90 minutes to 2 hours. That will also be live streamed. There will be a charge for that. It's almost like $25. Whether you're watching live streamed or you're there in person. So it'll all be there, so you guys will be able to watch. That's 2 weeks from today. So it's really exciting for me to actually go out and speak in front of real people again. Oh, I miss it. I miss it. I was performing from the time I was 5. I mean, I was just always very comfortable on the stage. I was a voice actor for a while and musician, obviously, and a gigging musician and the like. So, I just really enjoy that kind of an interaction with people and the atmosphere you can make in the room and the like. So for those of you who are nearby in this area, by all means, come and hang out with me. Roberto, I will. This is the last one I'm going to take because we hit 2 hours here, but I really do want to take this one. One, because Roberto is a dear friend of mine, and he said, "GP, my wife's mom is dying. I do not think she will make it past tomorrow. Any advice, please? I've had such a turmoil in my chest the whole day." Yeah, of course you are, my friend. Yeah. Death is a goodbye, right? Every form, including this one, will in fact eventually no longer be able to sustain this form and have to fall away. Now, it's amazing, right? Birth and death are just mysterious and miraculous. Miraculous. It stays together for as long as it does with a sense of continuity. Just incredible, really. And every single form is unique in all space and time, right? You and your mother-in-law, your wife, everyone here, right? There's never been anything like you, any of you. And there never will be after this. That's how unique we all are. So that's why it's such a glorious thing when a new child comes into the world, because this is a virgin birth. This is an event that is unique in all space and time, and it is also just deeply, deeply saddening when the time is up for that particular form, because it will never happen again. And so all throughout, we can use that as an opportunity to embrace every single moment as precious, because it is precious, because it's never going to happen again. Right? And at some point, this form is going to be gone. And coming to terms with that, right? Because there's that ache in our chest that we all have, the ache in the heart that doesn't want to let go, of course, and has to let go, and it knows. And can you see, that's the human thing. Yes, we have to say yes, this too, to that, because that's the reality. My heart is both broken and accepting at the same time. I'm accepting its brokenness. I'm accepting that this is the way life is, and I want to hold on to it. I don't want it to end. I don't want it to be like that. Of course we don't. Of course. And so you can also embrace your own, what you're losing personally in her. And I don't know how close your relationship was. And obviously it's extremely meaningful to your wife, and being, the loving husband, you're joining with her in her sorrow over it, and feeling your own compassion towards her. There's nothing you can do about that either. You can't. I mean, this is it. This is what grief is. This is what our coming to terms with death is. And we can also use it as a meditation on the impermanence of life, the impermanence of my life, the impermanence of everything, right? The flames on the candles, there's one over there and two over there. I mean, just beautiful, right? Fire has just fascinated us forever. We love to stare at it, and yet it will burn out. Right? That candle will be gone. So to appreciate its extraordinariness, to embrace her with loving kindness, to embrace the fact that do whatever you can to be with her in her death. If you can't be with her, in the place, if she's, she's in a hospice or a hospital or something like that, if you can't be with her, but to be with her in spirit, it's like, if there anything I can do to help you with this transition. In the Tibetan Buddhist tradition, the monk's always present when somebody dies. There's a whole process that they go through to help them in the transition. There's this incredibly beautiful acceptance of the inevitability of it. And they even stay there for 49 days, 7 weeks, before they cremate the body, as the monk explains to at this point the dead body. They're talking to the spirit of it, what's happening as they go through their 49 days in the bardo. That's how much loving attention they give to that moment, because it is inevitable and it's deeply significant. She's on her way to her next level of existence, her next opportunity of growth and development. She's wow. I mean, it's actually quite an honor for us to be involved in any way in somebody's passing. So you don't need to get rid of that ache, that turmoil. You don't need to. Say, yes, this too. And be with that turmoil and let it reveal itself to you. That's how we honor her. You honor your wife, you honor yourself, you honor life itself that way. Does that help, my dear friend? Awakening Soul says, absolutely. Thanks so much, G. Everything you said makes so much sense. I love the way you explained it. Much gratitude to you and all your teachings. Thank you. Getting on late. Hello, Mary. I see you. Jennifer saying, in the past, working on catching the ego, I used to just say, I see you. 1 year later, I found a book. It pointed out finding joy in the catching. I think of this most joyful and playfully. Yes, it is. Playing tag. Or, in Buddha inviting Mara for tea. Divine, thank you for answering my question. Primal fear feels real on my defense system. I'm dealing with CPTSD. Blessings. EFT is very, very effective on PTSD. It really helps bring the body right into that state of safety that can begin to dissipate PTSD, which is really just energy being held in the body. Yeah, there was a point where I got muted for a minute and I didn't notice it. So hopefully I didn't lose too much. 3 to 5 minutes, really? Oh well. Such a beautiful story with the baby. What an answer for Angela. Not her. I don't know what's happening. Technology gods, what can I say? They have really not been nice to me in the last in the last couple of months. So, all right, talking about the mom whose kids are gone. It's even harder when hubby dies too. Yes, it does. Yeah. This is life. Oh, everyone, this is life. This is life. If we can accept life as it is, we can with all that it contains without suffering. Without suffering doesn't mean without grief, without loss, without pain. It means without resistance. You get to feel fully the joy, the juice, the wonder, the intimacy, and fully the grief, the loss. And isn't that what we want? Because we cannot do away with impermanence. That we can't do. If we really grasp that in our hearts, right, you're just naturally open to a loving awareness. It makes everything sweet because everything is present, and now you see everything through the eyes of God. So until next, let's see. Well, in 2 weeks, I'll be speaking live and doing the workshop. So I guess the next satsang, I'll do the next satsang the week after that. Yeah. This next week, I'm going to have to be writing what I'm going to say. Kind of like a sermon. It's going to be Reverend G speaking at a church. So anyway, love you all. Till next time.